Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I see a lot of people in the chat from, I don't know, I've seen Australia, I've seen Vienna, I've seen Tennessee, home of Elvis. We got all kinds of people from all over the world in chat. How are you doing, everyone? A month has passed already again since the last .NET MAUI Community Stand-Up. I'm just going to call it .NET MAUI Community Toolkit Stand-Up. Oh, man. There's so many confusing terms here. So it has something to do with a toolkit and a stand-up, and we're going to talk all about it in this show for an hour. We have some bits about the Xamarin Community Toolkit. We just released a new version, 1.3 stable. I think a lot of people are happy with that because, it took a little bit of a long time since the previous pre-release, and there was some things with dependencies on Xamarin Forms versions. So I think a lot of people are happy with this. We will talk about animations, and also who is going to talk about animations. That's going to be Sean, because Sean is new, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. We have some voting to do. We have, I don't know, Brandon's going to talk a little bit about the process, like how are we going to arrange things. We already talked a little bit about that last month, but there's still more ground to cover here. And of course, we have the Q&A, which is we have some dedicated time at the end, but of course, during the whole stand-up, feel free to ask anything in the chat. We're with 5 people here, so I love to talk. That's 4 people who can man the chat. So that's what happens. Okay, let me first check in with all the rest here. Brandon, Sean, Pedro, Javier, how are you all doing?
Hey, Gerald. Good. Good to see everybody again.
Yeah,
Very good.
Hi. Oh, yeah, all good here.
Great. Yeah.
Good
Pedro?
here as well.
Ah, good.
Yeah, he's
Pedro,
good.
thank you. I was worried weren't going to say anything. It seems hot because you have the little fan on, so it's probably warm there.
Yeah, it's 4 p.m. right now and very shiny sun.
All right. I'm not jealous at all. So, as you might have noticed, if you have been a loyal watcher of our little community stand-up right here, then you might have noticed that we have suddenly Sean among us. Sean is going to be a new well, he's not going to be. He is a new member right now of the kind of core team of maintainers that we do the stand-up with. And together with that, if you have paying attention, you might notice that Andre is not here because, we have been emphasizing this a lot. This is something that we, including the people who work at Microsoft, that we do in our own time, in our free time. And also we have a couple of very great community members, all of them who are opening PRs, but also here on the kind of core team who are willing to donate some of their time to us, which is really great. And Andre has found himself in a point in time where he didn't really have the time to commit to this project, which is totally fine because he has been doing great, amazing things. So thank you so much, Andre, if you are watching this. Thank you so much for all the work that you did. Yes, applause. Woohoo! So thank you so much. And, who knows what the future will bring. We'll definitely be in touch. I hope you will still open PRs and issues and whatnot as a community member because, we're all doing this together, whether you're part of kind of the core team driving this or anyone that is in the community. So together with that, we have Sean. Sean, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Hi, yep, thank you. I guess I've been developing around Xamarin for a good few years now. Only in maybe the last year or two, recently discovered the toolkit and the amount of value that it actually offered. And having consumed all of that value, I wanted to start giving back. And it's grown and here we are.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. I've been in contact. I don't even know how we got to start talking, Sean. I can't even remember.
I think I hijacked your Discord server.
Yeah, that's probably true. So Sean and I got in touch at some point, and we've been in close contact ever since. And we've been talking about all kinds of things. He's been working on amazing projects. You might know him from the Super Word Search game, which is a game created in Xamarin Forms. I think he has let us in on a little secret that actually most of the code is shared. There's only very little platform-specific code, so that's really cool. And he's now, also doing some sessions around at the Exam Expert Day, something that I'm part of the organization of, an event online where he did a session about, a little bit of the animation stuff, because a game tends to have a lot of animations. So that's something that Sean knows a lot about, and he has been so kind to also implement now some compound pre-built animations, if you will, into our Xamarin Community Toolkit. And of course, I think we're going to talk about that in a little bit, how we're going to port that also to the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. So, and besides that, he's been doing great things across the whole Xamarin space, basically. So, welcome, Sean. I'm very happy to have you on the team, and let's do some great things all together here.
Thank you. Thank you for including me on the team as well. It's an honor to be here as well. Thank you.
Absolutely great. And as you might have heard, he's from the UK. You can hear it a little bit. So what else? I already said the Xamarin Community Toolkit version 1.3. We released it. Did I do it this week? Did I do it last week? I don't know what day it is. Even.
Just a couple days ago. This is hot
just
off
a couple
the
of days
presses.
ago. See,
2 days ago.
So who would like to? I see Brandon already put something up on the screen, which is the release notes. So is there anyone? Sean, are you familiar enough to actually say something about this? At least it will have your animation, so at least you can talk about that.
That's right.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. So, it's like you say, we've shipped 1.3 now. We've bumped up the dependency on Xamarin Forms, so we're now on the .2125. There's been some additions in terms of adding the semantic effect page and underlying logic for semantic effects, and yet more accessibility improvement on the set semantic inclusion. That's an area that I really do need to start learning a bit more on, is accessibility in general. Adding a speed property to media element, so I'm assuming that allows you to control the playback speed of media. The one bit I probably know a bit about is the compound animations, and was a large part of possibly delaying the release, getting those pesky unit tests in place. At the moment, this offers up only two complex animations, with the aim of actually, hopefully, providing a larger set as we progress through the releases.
So, Sean, what is a compound animation?
Okay.
Because we just made up that term. I don't know if anybody knows what that means.
So I guess with Xamarin Forms, we get some inbuilt animations that let you control a single property. So you can animate the color, or you can animate the scale, the translation, move it around the screen. Compound, we're taking that and we're going to use the underlying animation class that lets us animate many more of those properties in a single commit, single batch. So I don't know if we can talk about it now or actually later on when we do the proposal, but there's a good resource in terms of CSS animations that I've based a lot of the stuff off that I've done, where you can make text look like it's a piece of rubber band where you stretch it and then you let go, and it gives you that little effect of it settling back down to a static piece of text.
Cool. Let's talk about that in a little bit, as you said in the proposal for the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. So also for this release, I think it's good to point out, we're working on this one. Now we have to do a whole bunch of magic to also get a new version for the .NET. Well, okay, here we go. The Xamarin Community Toolkit MAUI Compat version. So that's the one which has everything from the Xamarin Community Toolkit, but will be compatible with .NET MAUI. Where, if you are a library maintainer yourself, we've documented all the steps. We will post a link somewhere at some point. If you follow all of us, the Twitter handles are here. We're tweeting about it, or tweet at us if you don't know where to find it. So we're going to go through those steps, release that version as well. And of course, in an ongoing effort, we're also working on the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit to push out new versions there. So that's kind of like where we're at. And of course, for the regular kind of Xamarin Community Toolkit, now we're looking at like more things that we can add to the next version. Although we've already talked about also like, we might want to step on a break a little bit for the bigger new features. Now that .NET MAUI is delayed a little bit, we have a little bit of more breathing room to maybe add some more stuff. But on the other hand, everything that we're adding now means more work to also make it work with the .NET MAUI, the Xamarin Community Toolkit, MAUI Compat version, and of course also the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. Phew.
Yeah.
I think Brendan already brought up the link, so that's great.
Yeah, I just want to say, speaking of MAUI Compat, so for anybody that's not familiar, Xamarin.CommunityToolkit.MAUI Compat is the .NET MAUI compatible version of the Xamarin Community Toolkit. So that's where if you have an existing app that uses the Xamarin Community Toolkit and you want to upgrade to .NET MAUI, you can just remove the Xamarin Community Toolkit NuGet package, replace it with Xamarin Community Toolkit MAUI Compat, and it's the same thing. It's not as performant. It doesn't take advantage of all the new .NET MAUI fun stuff. It's literally a compatibility layer. But I also want to give a shout out to Vlad here. He's been doing a lot of amazing work on the toolkits lately, and he took the steps that we had written to create that MAUI Compat version and has added to them. So what I'll be doing is actually using this pull request to make this next version of MAUI Compat and bringing in Vlad's improvements as well. So thank you, Vlad. Hopefully you're out there. Hopefully you're watching. Just really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, he's definitely been helping us out a lot as well. So thank you so much for that. Really, really great. And also because, let's be honest, documenting steps to convert one thing to the other is not the most great thing to be working on. So I'm just happy whenever someone from the community does that, because, as a maintainer, you just have to bite the bullet sometimes and you have to do it. But if someone from the community even picks that up, that's just great. So that's fantastic. So I think last month, we already talked a little bit about the new workflow that we're implementing for the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, where we have kind of like the champion workflow, where we have proposals that start as a discussion on our GitHub repository. From there, we're going to talk to you about it, like, hey, how can we model this proposal, and can we bring that over into an issue? Then we're going to vote if it's something that we see happening for the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, yes or no. Let's pretend that it's a very fine proposal, which I'm sure all your proposals are going to be great, but sometimes we have to make tough choices. But if we're moving forward with it, then we are going to assign a champion from our team right here. So it can be any of these 5 people, which doesn't mean that that person is going to do all the work, but that person is going to be responsible for basically that issue, that feature, that proposal until it's merged kind of like into the toolkit. So you're kind of like the ambassador, the one that wants to see this happen. So you can either do the work, which is totally fine as well, or you can find someone to work together on that with you. But you're going to be the one who is going to see that whole thing through. So that's kind of like what we've been implementing for the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. Brandon isn't interrupting me, so apparently I'm not saying anything stupid right now. And one of the proposals that we have is the one from Sean that he just implemented in the Xamarin Community Toolkit, which has to do with the animations. Because, we have all this stuff in the Xamarin Community Toolkit, but we don't want to just copy everything one-on-one to the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit, because also their stuff came in. And with stuff, I mean features, controls, everything came in, which are maybe not at the level that we would like them to be. We also have the other thing working together with the Windows Community Toolkit, who already has kind of like the MVVM framework, which has a couple of the things that we added as well. So we're going to reevaluate each thing and see if we still want that in the .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. So to also keep ourselves to the process that we have thought up. Also, these new animations that I'm pretty sure will make it in is something that we are going to put into a proposal, and we're going to kind of look at that now, I guess.
Sorry,
Silence.
that's on me. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah,
we are now.
Zoom in just a little bit, or increase the font size a little bit.
Okay, so like we said, we recently shipped compound animations, as we're calling them now, in the 1.3 release, and it seemed a good idea to see if we can suggest putting them straight into the MAUI Toolkit. So what we've got is written up the proposal to see what we can do. As a brief guide, the original plan was to try and match as many of the animations that are on this site.
Cool.
There's quite a number here. I think there's about 92 last time I counted. Sorry, there's a fair amount of work there, but I think in terms of getting the core concept around in, that shouldn't be too difficult, given that we've just pushed that through to the Xamarin Community Toolkit, and then there's a perfect opportunity for more people to contribute and add in animations as they want them. So, and I don't know if this counts as the prototype. I didn't tick it, but this is a sample page from the Xamarin Community Toolkit as part of the work, and this just shows off what they actually do.
Can you make that one a little bigger too, Sean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. I probably should make the text a bit bigger for the animation.
These are really cool. I like these a lot. So
there you go.
Because and again, the idea behind compound animations is taking those existing animation features that exist in .NET MAUI, so like rotate to, translate to, scale to, and basically compounding those together into a full cool animation like this rubber band snapback action. That's
yeah, exactly. You essentially you can define each of the keyframes, and therefore you're you can come up with really quite complex animations.
Right on.
Yep.
So,
okay.
Yeah, what we wanted to chat about is this will be our first live vote, I think, on a proposal. So Sean put together the proposal for compound animations, and let's see. You want to sell it to us, Sean?
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, there is a slight hesitation on my part.
Yeah.
In general, based on I think a discussion we've had offline, in the fact that some of the animation behavior work is not strictly a complete prerequisite to this set of work, but some of the kind of the what this is based around will needs to be done in one of them, if that makes sense. And I think the other one's already been approved, and I think someone's kindly offered to do that work. So whether it makes sense to base this off that after, you know what I mean, schedule it so it's done once that work's complete. That makes total sense. I'm happy with that. But in terms of the functionality, I mean, you can see what we can offer to the toolkit. The API exposure is relatively small, so we've got a simple base class that will allow us to create these compound animations, and actually it allows anyone within their own apps to create them themselves. And then obviously those could also then be contributed back to the toolkit if we wanted. Well, sorry, if they wanted to. And yeah, so like I say, it's a relatively small API surface in the fact that we've got a base class and then ones that we would actually implement. Built it around to show how it's used within XAML. Now, obviously, this can't be done until the animation behavior work is done. but there is still the C# usage that's could be done outside of that.
Yeah. So I know I'm a little biased because I'm the C# guy. I don't really do XAML, so everything here looks great to me. But I think it's important to bring that up, right? If most animations will be done in XAML using that behavior,
This one, yeah.
right? Does it make sense to implement this, or can or should we implement it now? And then can the work for the animation behavior be done alongside of it? That I don't know. Who who knows the answer to that?
I would say that it's possible to implement that using C#. I remember when Sean and I was discussing this feature for the first time, there was just the C# side of the things. And I asked him if we could do that in XAML because most developers use XAML. So like for make everything XAML friendly will be kind of better, but it's not like a must thing, you know. You can implement that right now without the animation behavior, and in the future you can extend that to use XAML or even using another approach that maybe could make more sense, I believe.
Yeah, I think in terms of actually triggering them, as Pedro said, is the fact that this could be done later, and in theory, if when the two bits of work are complete, then this should in theory just work. I say in theory. The only complex part is actually basing it all off the same base class. But if there's an agreement between the two approaches, that would limit the risk of I guess conflicts in terms of the work done. The other discussion which I would like to bring up, and I haven't actually put it in here yet, is the concept of moving. I think this was your suggestion, Brandon, is actually moving these to a different part of different namespace, so they wouldn't live under.
Yeah,
behaviors.
That was yeah, something when I was reviewing the PR for the Xamarin Community Toolkit, kind of like Gerald was saying earlier, like there's some things in the Xamarin Community Toolkit that would be breaking changes if we did it there, but since we're coming to Maui, we can kind of reassess and go, does that really make sense? And yeah, when I was reviewing the PR for this compound animation for Xamarin Community Toolkit, I was kind of confused why the animations were in the behaviors namespace. And I think there's some legacy there from the animation behavior being there, and then everything kind of building around that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of threw out the idea in the comments, like, what if we just add a animations namespace? And again, very C# biased and focused. It makes a lot of sense to me. But yeah, Sean pointed out it would require bringing in another.
No, it won't actually. Sorry, it's a mistake I made, because this is a full namespace there, isn't it? So actually,
well, so we don't have that
no,
yet. I was actually going to bring that up later because there's a discussion for that. But that might solve the problem. So do we mind having another namespace especially if we bring in that that XML namespace definition where, yeah, we can just use the URL and it brings in everything. Maybe those kind of work together. And maybe we need to start promoting that into a proposal to get that XML namespace definition.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting, because I have been looking into that URL namespace kind of thing, because it causes some issues whenever you are only using things in XAML, basically. So there are a couple of people who, and a couple of people, it's just confusing, because whenever you do that, the tooling will give you an error, which is not really an error in most cases. So that's where it kind of gets confusing, right? So, yeah, I would love to have this because it makes things super easy to use. But I would also want to make sure that we get rid of that confusion, so that people can use this without seeing errors that they don't know what they mean, and they're going to open issues, and we're going to say yes, we know, but and that's kind of what's happening now. And I would love to get rid of that. In order to do that, I think we need to either fix something in Xamarin Forms, or we should choose to add some kind of which is also not a great option, some kind of init line, which really doesn't do anything, but overcomes this problem. So and yeah, so that's kind of like the two choices.
Isn't there option 3? I think Pedro mentioned source generators.
Oh, yeah. I didn't have time to test it yet. Probably I will have some time at the end of the month during my PTO. But yeah, right now on Xamarin Community Toolkit, then Sigo did a PR for us, and we use IFNOT run some MS build tasks to make sure that we will inject that namespace there. So probably the reason of the errors are related to those tasks. So another solution that I talked before is using a code generator to just create a dump class with a dump init method with our namespace. And at the end of the day, the dev don't need to type anything. The source generator will do that, and hopefully the error will go away. For the MAUI Community Toolkit, since we use some build extension method for the CI/CD IOC stuff there, the DI framework. Probably we don't need to care about that ever, because the dev will need to register the effects or behaviors or handlers there. So he will need to type something in C#. So probably he will not see that error there.
Cool. That's definitely something that is not on my radar. I really haven't played with the code generation stuff yet, but that's definitely a good option where yeah, absolutely. Is there any downside to code generation? I guess it's maybe a tiny performance hit somewhere or something, but
no, in this case, will not be, because the source generator has two methods. One of the initialize, so if I'm not wrong, it's executed just one time. So we will use that one. Just inject this file to the project, and it's done. Don't look anything else. So I believe that will not have any path issue.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so a little bit more background. I think we have some. Well, it's already half an hour in. So a little bit of background on what's actually going on here, because I kind of dove into this. Is that when you're only using XAML, there is no hard reference to any object, if that makes sense. While it is in XAML, but XAML is kind of like HTML and stuff, right? It's kind of like interpreted or something like that. So there is no real reference, and because of that, also like the mono runtime thinks like, hey, I'm not going to load this DLL because we don't have any reference to it. So I'm going to try to optimize this. So no one's using it. So I'm not going to load this. And so I've been kind of playing around because this is something that originates in Xamarin Forms, and I've been playing around. And if I, go out and load that DLL from the file system, then it suddenly starts working. But using reflection and loading these things, blah blah blah, is not great for performance either. So, and the whole XAML compilation, XAML generation has been working very stable for a long time. So if I don't have to touch it, I'd rather not. If it works, don't touch it. That kind of idea, especially with Xamarin Forms is kind of like we're maintaining it, so I'd rather not touch kind of like these core bits of that. That's kind of the reason why. So yeah, that's kind of what's happening and what's happening under the hood here. But yeah, so the code generation option then seems kind of like perfect.
Yeah, it's a good option, and I don't see any negative impact in that way. But also, until now, it was grouping in different namespace based on the kind of the file. I mean, we was grouping all the behaviors in the behaviors namespace. We was grouping all the controls in the controls namespace, etc. But we have an interesting mix between triggers, behaviors, and other stuff that at the end are all related with animations. And the only bad thing is like we need to move things that maybe don't have all the sense to something like an animations namespace. But I like the idea. The only bad thing is leave things in the behaviors namespace and other things in the animation namespace. And at the end, to use something simple, need to create and import to different namespace. But if we break that the way in how we organize until now, I mean, behaviors in the behavior namespace, and we don't mix in the same namespace things like triggers and behaviors in the same group. If we group more by functionality, could work, just creating a new namespace. But yeah, the source generators is the idea that I like more, but of course require more effort than just creating a new namespace. So yes.
So just going back, I think we're kind of like going through three things here now, which is fine. So I think we definitely also need to look into how we're going to organize our namespaces, regardless, because if you're not using XAML, then that is still something that you are going to kind of worry about. Although you can now put it all in, I don't know, one file and never see any using again with all the new goodies of C#10. But it's still good to kind of like arrange them a right way. I think the source generation is that part of the proposal for that namespace URL thing?
Yeah, so the source generation is for the namespace fix, I think.
Right, but that's part of that proposal. Like the proposal is going to be implement the URL namespace, and to make that sure that it works, we also do the code generation. That's one thing.
Yes, I would assume so, because then that rules out this issue that you've been talking about.
Yeah, so this is the discussion for the XML namespace. And
yep.
I don't think we mentioned, so Gerald mentions the issue that we've been talking about, where sometimes it'll basically, if you don't use any C# and then it assumes that you're not using the library, so it gets removed. But yeah, I don't see a mention about the source generation here. So yeah, maybe Pedro, if you got time today, throw a comment in there about, I think we can do this with source generators. I'll take a look at it. And then we could kind of run with that, because
I think
yeah, I think what Dan proposes here is kind of like the dummy init thing, but now it is something that we hook up to the generic host builder, which makes it feel a little bit less dirty, because it's in the host builder, but it still doesn't do anything, right? So I don't know.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those, if we have to do it, we have to do it, and it's fine. I mean, we kind of, especially the Xamarin Forms world, everything had an init method that you would add to finish launching in iOS, or your on create and your main activity. So I'd say we're kind of used to it by now, but at the same time, it's also kind of a pain, because you have your production apps and you look in your finish launching method and there's like 10 lines of code just devoted to init. So yeah, like if we have to do it, I think it's fine. But if we can avoid it, I think it's even better. So
okay, perfect. So we're gonna park that for now. We're gonna iterate on that for a little bit, and then going back to the original thing, which is the animations, I guess. So what about that? Are we ready to vote? Do we want to talk
take a vote? We could probably do. I'd say let's start with the no's. Is anybody a hard no on this? Maybe we bring everybody back to screen.
People in the chat, any thoughts?
Let's see. I don't see any hands up for a hard no.
Soft no.
Yeah, who's we'll say a soft yes, like yes if certain condition is met. Like maybe it's not perfect the way we have it written out in the proposal right now, but maybe like yes if we get the namespace stuff figured out, or yes if something else we haven't talked about yet. Any hands up for a yes if?
I just have a question because I saw that the animation has a cancellation token search there. So if you cancel the animation, the user should have a try catch block to catch the cancellation exception, right? Otherwise, the application will crash or break. Or
So at the moment that's all handled within our code base. So if you are the animation method at the moment in the Xamarin Community Toolkit is handling that exception, at least for stopping the animation. I don't believe we had to put that actually in the samples app. I don't think we had to put that in.
Sounds good.
So when the animation's canceled, it stops and an exception's not bubbled up to the user right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you prefer that we did bubble up?
I think probably not.
Yeah, me either. I don't like the idea of the user have a bunch of try catch blocks.
I mean,
Yeah,
they are controlling the token as well, aren't they? So they are actively cancelling it.
Makes sense.
So the only way to cancel it is with the token, and so the developer would have had to have written code that explicitly tells the token to cancel. So it sounds like it's a very much on purpose thing. It wouldn't be yeah. Then I agree, I wouldn't bubble up an exception for that. All right. I guess we're on to the full yes. We'll approve this, passing the vote. So who wants to vote to approve it as is moving forward, and we'll figure out the namespace stuff later.
Woohoo!
Well, there we go. All right. We'll give it the stamp of approval. Awesome.
Excellent. My first win.
We need one of those.
Yeah, we need like a gong or a your proposal just got approved. Watch out. Sweet. So Sean, as you are the champion, you're kind of the PM, the proposal manager. That actually works. This is a product manager. So yeah, like we were talking about earlier, I mean, Sean, you're more than welcome to bring in the code and work on it. But at least for right now, as the champion, you'll move it into the approved column. The approved tag should add automatically. I configured the Microsoft bot to do that, but I've also noticed sometimes it doesn't. So you can bring in the approved tag, and if you want to work on it, awesome. And if not, you can put the help wanted tag on there as well, and we can get someone from the community joining in on the fun as well.
Excellent. I'll do that.
Absolutely. Well, it's the moment has passed. We just did our first vote on a proposal, and it got accepted. And I don't know how to feel about all this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I think this is great because I really like the animation. I would love to see more. I think we really skipped over that really fast with like the CSS stuff that you were showing off, Sean. But it's all these, because I think that's kind of like the problem with a lot of this stuff, right? That a lot of people we in Xamarin Forms we have the tools that will allow you to create these animations, but if you're like me, you have no clue how to do it. So if we can provide you, that's what the toolkit does, right? If we can provide you with animations out of the box that you can use to make your animation, your apps look prettier and add that little kind of micro interaction things, I think that's really great, and a lot of people will be happy with that. So very glad to also bring that to .NET MAUI. All right. I think, Brandon, you also we have about 20 minutes, 15 minutes left.
Speed round.
I think you have something to talk about in regards to also the changes in the core team and what we've been doing and discussing around that.
Yeah. So I'll pull up my screen real quick. We'll we'll keep it quick, but I did want to share this link. We always prioritize doing everything in the open. That's why we're hanging out with you all here on YouTube today for our stand-ups, and want to share this with you today. This is something that when Andre reached out and asked about rolling off the team, we kind of said, like, that's a really good excuse to think about the team and the responsibilities and what we ask of each other and what are the commitments, right? And, I think when we reached out to Sean, it's not just, sure, but what do I have to do? It's like, well, that's a good question. So we put together this page on the wiki. It's totally up for review. Nothing's set in stone yet, but the high level overview is what we're asking of the core maintainers is when you join that you'll commit to at least a year. You don't have to only be on the team for a year, but if everybody's joining and leaving every other week, that would be tough. So join for a year. We'll have a lead maintainer for a little bit more than a year, so we can have some overlap and handoffs. But essentially, the thought is, basically staying active, participating in discussions, triaging issues, championing new features, attending our monthly stand-up like we're doing right now. And we're saying, again, as of right now, we're saying a minimum of one activity per week. So that activity could be a discussion, it could be a proposal. It doesn't necessarily have to be writing code as a team member. And then the lead will have a little bit more. So basically ensuring the engine's still working, the car's still running, right? Make sure that we are responding to discussions and issuing or triaging issues, that the new feature proposals are added to the board and everything's moving along, because I still don't think I've configured the Microsoft bot perfectly yet. So there's still little manual things there. And then also bringing on Sean was awesome because it also got us to think about, what tools do we need? So when somebody does join, where do we add them in? So want to share that with the community. Take a look. Let us know what you think. And we can always tweak this from here. But flipping back, also wanted to highlight some of the discussions we've been having. So if you haven't yet already, check out the discussions tab. Let me see if I can drop this. Can I drop a link to this? Well, let me give you a link to just discussions. Well, if you go to the Maui repo and click the discussions tab, you can come in here and check out. There's all these ideas, proposals, new features. Sometimes it's just Q&A, like when are we going to support Windows? Good question. And you can come in here and vote on them. And to be honest with you, we're going to be looking at those votes. So I'll jump back for a second. The ones with the highest votes are kind of the ones that I've pulled up to chat about today. And we already touched on Dan Siegel's discussion about adding this XML namespace. So I won't spend any more time on that. We're going to look into that with source generators. There's a good discussion on adding a date time to string converter. So if you've ever been using date times in XAML and needed to convert that to a string, that's kind of a pain. And what I think that is cool about this, and I will say, again, I'm not a XAML guy, so I'm going to defer to the other folks on the team or the community, is that he's also included the string.format formats. So this is also gives you the ability to include that in XAML, which I think will be really nice, so that you can say, you don't just do a datetime.toString, because those can look really sloppy, especially in our production apps. If we just want to show March 7th, then a datetime.toString gives you like the minutes, the seconds, the milliseconds, and sometimes you don't need all that. So there we go. I can get that link. So here's a good link to date time to string converter. There we go. And we've got some ones on the camera. So I don't think we've added camera view yet into the .NET MAUI toolkit. It's in the Xamarin Community Toolkit, and I don't think anybody started the work on that, but cool idea for focus and exposure. So what I like about this is it gives you a little bit more control for the camera plugin. So things like a focus mode and exposure mode. And so again, if that's something you're interested in, come in here, give this an upvote, join the discussion, because these discussions are where we get the new features from. So this will hopefully one day become a new feature in the toolkit. And got another one about allowing the handling of null. So this is one where, again, I'm I'm a little out of my depth as someone who doesn't write their UIs in XAML. I don't use converters in this way a lot, because when you do it in C# with the C# markup extensions, converters are really easy. Dink. So coming in, let us know what you think about this one. I've kind of gotten to the extent where I'm like, I don't really know enough, but it sounds interesting. And so he gave a pretty cool explanation where you might want to use null, but I don't know. I'm not the expert. So we're going to defer to the community, and I'll say the other core team members as well. So let me drop that link in here as well so that we can join in on the conversation. Oh, whew. How was that? Was that too fast? Fast enough? You guys want to chat about any discussions? I know I think after this, we're just going to go to Q&A with the community. So folks in the comments.
Yep.
Otherwise, we can discuss our discussions.
So anyone has thoughts about this? Sean, putting you on the spot as a new member. You have any thoughts on this?
The date time one, definitely. I've had to write some in the past. So being able to have something supplied like that would definitely be of benefit. I don't know. Nulls is a tricky topic, isn't it? We're trying to move away from using null, but obviously there are scenarios where we still do.
Yeah, that was kind of my question, and I'm sure you'll see it when you read the discussion. It's just kind of like, do we need null, or does XAML handle null, or does XAML convert it to an empty string? Well,
no, nulls are entirely possible, because you've even got a target null value setter in the binding to define a different bit of behavior. So I don't know. Have to look into that. Whether you could even do that within the binding itself rather than having to go direct into the converter. Might not look as pretty writing it all in one large XAML statement.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. I should dig into exactly what this thing for the null handling is exactly, because indeed you have in the XAML bindings already, you have kind of like this. What did you call it? Did you know the name, Sean?
There's a fallback value, and I think it's the target null value.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever the value that you bind to is coming up with null, then you can say like, hey, instead of using null, you will use the actual integer 0 or an empty string or whatever. You can basically provide whenever this is null, I want you to use this value. So this, I don't know, it kind of feels that maybe you could use that to get around the issue that we're trying to solve here. But I'm not sure what we're trying to do here. So I should definitely have a better look at that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to drop in on that discussion as well.
Right on. Oh, and actually, let me show one more thing, because this is kind of... Whoops. Hang on, Javier. I didn't mean to make you full screen there. There we go. So something I just want to share with everybody. When you come to the discussions, and actually, now I can get the URL. So let's share that in the comments. So let's just put .NET MAUI Toolkit discussions. Boom. So when you come to the discussions, this is a little confusing, because when I first came here, I thought it was already sorted by what are the top voted ones. It's not. And if you look really closely, this new button is slightly different color. So it's actually sorted by new. I wish that this would just be one button. So if you want to sort it by the votes, you can come in and say, all right, show me the past week, which has the most upvotes, past year, which has the most upvotes, all time. And so every time I've come here, and again, just sharing this so nobody else makes the same mistake I did, I'll come to the discussions tab. And then the first thing I always do is click on this and then click on all again. So then it's sorted by the top upvotes. So just FYI, if anybody else gets confused, like, why is this sorted by the top? And those clearly aren't the highest voted ones. It's a weird GitHub thing. And maybe we know somebody at GitHub we can give some feedback to. Oh, Gerald's frozen. Oh, there is. or formerly at GitHub.
I don't know. No, I technically never was GitHub, so but I know a couple of people, absolutely. So we'll look into that.
And so yeah, we're kind of on to the Q&A portion. I see Fahad says they have a question. Oh, there we go. It just came in. It's on crypto. Yeah, Fahad, let's keep this focused on the Community Toolkit. Good question, though. What other questions do folks have? Let's see. Oh, here's one. Repo should have the markdown doc to ensure contributors be up to speed, like in the Power Toys repo. Ooh, good suggestion. I'll have to pull up a link to that. Yeah. We tried
that either. But I would be definitely up for, improving our story for other people to make it easier to contribute to us. I mean, that's ultimately helping you help us with less work for us, which is what I like. So we should definitely.
Yeah, I will say we tried to make it as easy as possible. So even if you don't read the docs or know anything about the process, if you do come in to open up a new issue, this will kind of nudge you to say, if you want to create a bug report, then you'll get a template on how to report the bugs. Or if you want to open a new feature proposal, you can do that. But it also says that proposals that have been discussed in the discussions tab. So that's where we kind of nudge you to propose a new feature here, boop, and that'll take you to starting a new discussion on it. So hopefully that'll help guide the process. But yeah, the easier we can make it, I think the better for all of us, certainly. All right. What other questions do we have? I'm scrolling back in the comments. I don't see the context here, but Shavendra was asking fluent Cupertino material visual. Let's see. Was anybody following along in the comments? Or Shavendra, are you still here?
Well, I guess he's expecting to have something similar to Shaman Informs visual, but instead to using material with Fluent Cupertino and material. So definitely we don't have anything like that defined for the toolkit, either Xamarin Informs Community Toolkit or .NET MAUI Community Toolkit. We are exploring a way related with that is based on MAUI graphics, that is use a cross-platform drawing API, and we created another library based on the previous one, creating drone controls and implementing Fluent Cupertino and material. And we are currently exploring and sharing it with the community, sharing it with developers, with third-party vendors, etc., receiving feedback and validating if it's something interesting for our developers and if have sense or not. And what will happen in the future? Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it will be part of the MAUI core, maybe have more sense to move something like that to the toolkit, or maybe nobody is interested in something like that and will not continue forward. So we'll see. But that's the most close thing that we have related with this. And the repository is GitHub/Microsoft and Microsoft Maui.graphics.controls. That's a repository with something related with this stuff.
Sounds good. All right, we've got 1 more minute left for Q&A. Get your questions in now or join us next month. So don't forget, everybody, we have these community stand-ups. It's the first Thursday of every month. And if that's too confusing to remember, if you remember the .NET MAUI stand-ups that Maddie hosts, ours are always on the same day. So right after you get done hanging out with Maddie, you can jump over and join us here. All right. Well, not seeing any more questions rolling in. I think we've got some good good action items. Pedro will jump on using source generators made for the XML namespace, and we'll comment on the compound animations, which is officially approved. So yay, everybody. Congrats, Sean. And for everybody else, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you next month for our December stand-up.
I don't know if you were talking to me, but I lost audio somewhere. Thanks for covering for me.